you're in North Africa and some European countries, and good afternoon if you are in the GCC or any other adjacent countries, and good evening if you are in faraway countries in Asia. So this panel discussion is going to be with Mr. Jihad Azour. It is going to be in the Arabic language. So if you'd like to follow the main discussion in the Arabic language, please choose French as your language. So the moderator is repeating the same instructions in Arabic, and you have to mute the original audio for you to be able to hear or listen to the uh, main channel, the Arabic channel, the channel of discussion, or language of discussion. Mr. Jihad, good morning, welcome, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to attend with us this panel discussion. So first of all, I would like to extend my thanks to you and to your colleagues in the Middle East and Central Asia departments at the IMF. I would like to thank you for the uh, published materials that you issued. It gives readers, analysts, and policy designers the opportunity to follow the developments that are happening during the pandemic. So everybody is following what is happening in the realm of health, the number of cases, the number of persons that have recovered from the virus, and also the jabs, the vaccines, and the use of vaccines in the region. And also, we also give us the economic view, vision, opinion, and in many countries of the region, we lack transparency, disclosure about what is happening around us. So within this framework, I would like to commend the efforts that are being exerted by your department, and also your media presence has become very, very important indeed. And this is very important in my view. So the topic of our discussion today is the latest published material with regard to the prospects, economic prospects of the region, the Middle East region. So we have had a number of topics and themes, and if you allow me, I would like to start with the first question from one of the main themes that have been covered in the report. So the report has some good news talking about the beginning of recovery after a very, very difficult year, and even talking about the beginning of 2021, where the situation is still very difficult in many countries. But it seems that the message is reassuring that the pathway of recovery has started, and also the level of growth is going to be beyond your expectation in October. At the same time, there is another theme that talks about the pathway of recovery is going to be long, and this pathway is going to be is going to have so many differences, and it is very important perhaps to clarify to the viewers what the IMF is referring to in this report. First of all, I would like to thank you. I would like to thank you, Brother Tarik, for hosting me, and I would like to thank the BBC, the Brookings Doha Center, for hosting the International Monetary Fund. So it is very important to discuss economic and social matters that are pertinent to this region and the developments that are taking place. There is no doubt that 2020 was a year where we started to confronting the pandemic, and 2021 is a year of transformation to move into a new economic model. We hope that it's going to be built based on recovery, and we hope it is going to be based on building a new economy that is going to secure for the region what it lacked in recent time, and also the distribution of this growth that should be fair, and also to give the opportunity to the economy to find solutions to some problems that existed even prior to the pandemic. Undoubtedly, I mentioned something which is very important indeed. So the transformation which entails the exiting from this crisis. So departing from this crisis is not going to be the same within countries or within the region. So this is linked to a number of issues. So the first thing is the vaccination process, the speed of vaccination, and we see that there is a difference amongst the countries in the region. Some of them are pioneering, and there are some other countries that are going to be a little bit lagging behind, that would not be able to vaccinate their population up until 2023. And this is not going to have repercussions only on health, but also on growth. And it's going to make the process of departing and exiting from this crisis very, very slow. And also growth and the preparation of the economy for it to be revived and also grow much further. So these countries that have the policies would be able to have a quick departure from this current situation. So the situation, economically speaking, and also the economic makeup in the region. So countries that have sectors such as the tourism sector and other sectors that require the necessity of mingling together, gathering together, these are going to be taking a longer period of time. So the crises that used to exist before the pandemic is going to deepen the difficulty for us to be able to find solutions and exit this situation of the pandemic. So that is why we should speed up the process of vaccination because we are still in a situation where the virus is still spreading. Also, the policies should be concerted, should be coordinated, and also we should have a right reading of the lessons that we have learned in this period of time. So these components are very important in the coming phase. Undoubtedly, that there are differences amongst countries, amongst the different groups in the community. And this difference depends on the situation of the different sectors and also the ability of citizens for them to be able to have access to the different services. So the main objective is not to have a larger gap amongst the different components of the community. Thank you, Jihad. And please allow me to ask you about the reason behind this difference that is happening, this gap that was referred to in the report and also that you mentioned. So what attracted my attention that in this particular period of time, there are clear differences, stark differences between countries that are ready to have and use the vaccine to there are countries that are advanced and there are countries that are lagging behind when it comes to administering the vaccine. So when, and this is going to be one of the parameters of this pathway of recovery. Yes, there are differences amongst countries when it comes to their capabilities, but there are countries that are interlinked to each other. So these countries were supposed to be prepared, to be ready, to have coordinated their efforts in order to make the vaccines that have ready, because we do not want this to be the differentiating traits between countries that are advanced in terms of recovery and those who are lagging behind. So, are there any regional justifications, perhaps, that can bridge the gap or reduce the gap existing between different countries? So we have found Morocco is advanced when it comes to the vaccination process. But there are countries that have higher income compared to Morocco. So we have Lebanon, we have Jordan that are lagging behind compared to Morocco. Can you clarify the reason why is this happening? And are there any initiatives that perhaps are going to be expected and that would help us perhaps to overcome this kind of difficult situation? Thank you, Tarik. Undoubtedly, this is a very important topic, and perhaps you, from the recent research that has been taking place, perhaps you have put this matter uh, uh, at the heart of the analysis that you have given. So there are differences economically speaking, and also there are differences in terms of policies that have been devised. So amongst the lessons that we have learned is that policies have played a very important role in this pandemic. There are two silver linings, despite the differences between countries, particularly the ones that suffer from instability, political instability, and security instability. So these countries were able to set a number of policies that have contributed to the protection of lives and livelihoods of citizens, and also to limit the spread of the pandemic, and the number of deaths were much limited compared to countries that are much advanced in Europe. There is also another component, which is the policies and the ability to plan and also to work within institutions. The example of Morocco. So Morocco, as an example, was able, for instance, when the country faced economic issues due to the fact that so many work outside the formal sector, so they were able to give aid to more than 500 households or families. So what is the importance of such policies? Such policies would enable you to reinforce trust between you and the citizens, and also would speed up the process of exiting from this pandemic, and also speed up the process of recovery. So another point that I would like to talk about, last year and this year, there is a kind of a re-analysis or rereading of regional cooperation. So this matter is being reactivated. Activated. So vaccination is one of the initiatives. We have seen a number of initiatives that have been forged by a number of countries in order to secure and to speed up the vaccination process. And also there is another logistical dimension. Vaccines require logistical administration that so many countries lack, or some countries in actual fact lack. We have seen a number of initiatives of coordination when it comes to investments in renewable economy, and also when it comes to the repercussions of the environment. Yes, meetings had been held online, and also we have had so many meetings with the ministers of finance and also government central banks, and we have had a number of methodologies that we are working on in order to make sure that we're going to be able to benefit from the current phase through deepening the regional cooperation in North Africa. We try to alleviate commercial exchange cooperation. So this can lead to an extra 1% of growth, and that can lead to a joint market between these countries, and this perhaps would alleviate the level of unemployment. So for this particular reason, and this is a very important component that is very much important, that is very much shined light on by researchers. So researchers concentrate on the lessons that we should learn in order to exit the pandemic as quickly as possible. This is very important. Yes, there are so many lessons that we need to ponder on, that we need to learn from. And these lessons should be part and parcel of what we call the year of policy. We call the year 2021 the year of policy. And I think that the coming decade is going to be the decade of policy. And this is good news when it comes to the initiatives that serve regional cooperation, expertise, financial support, and also the dissemination and the use administration of vaccines at a very large level. So your reports this year, Mr. Head, yes, contains a positive message. You're talking about the pathway of recovery that you talked about, which is going to be different between countries and also is going to be very long. But also, at the same time, you talked about many reasons and exceptional circumstances in this current period. There is a lack of trust. There is fear, and there is also fear of any setbacks that might have an impact on the pathway of uh, of recovery. So talking about lack of certainty and so what really attracts my attention is your keenness in your report that countries of the region should not be hasty in starting the recovery because the recovery is going to be slow. So these countries of the region, sorry, should not be hasty in withdrawing the incentive, not in withdrawing the in starting the recovery. No, no, because it should not make this pathway very slow or put impediments in the pathway. So, how would the countries of the region, particularly the ones that face financial difficulties, how can they choose the right time, particularly that we lack the certainty. So, how can the IMF contribute in this regard? So, the main trait of this current phase is that things are enigmatic, not very clear, and also we are witnessing a huge transformation in world economy. So, there is uncertainty. There is complete uncertainty with regard to many important topics. Uncertainty with regard to having perhaps other waves of the virus or the pandemic and how to deal with the vaccines. Are the vaccines going to respond to these new variants? And also, are we going to have risks of inflation that might have its repercussions on the different countries? So this requires two main components. We have to be very speedy in our response and readiness. So we have to be ready to contain, to absorb any crises, any shocks, and also we have to benefit from the current situation and also to be effective in terms of the policies that we're going to advance. If we look into countries of the region have faced and have set a number of procedures, quick procedures. In less than 5 minutes, they were able to set a number of procedures in the realm of health and also in finance in order to support the lives and livelihoods of citizens. And also there were a number of monetary procedures that have been undertaken through the reduction of interest. So this contributed to the stability of the economy. So last year we have seen some enhancement in the economy and in our prospects, and we uh, we have seen good results based on what had been achieved last year. So what does that mean? Does that mean that those procedures have been effective, but these procedures differ from one country to another due to the capabilities of countries. So countries that have more funds can continue, and countries that have less funds have to reorganize their priorities. And here lies the importance of something very important indeed. So we still have the opportunity to create value, even if we do not increase the level of expenditure. So in recent phase, we have seen a weakness of expenditure feasibility. So countries have to revisit their priorities. They have to reactivate their public policies, and also there should be feasibility when it comes to public expenditure. Countries that have financial capabilities have to continue with their endeavors. And the most important point is the enhancement point. When we see that there is a continuation in enhancement in terms of the economy, then countries have to start then or can start reducing their support to the economy, their subsidies. And this should be phased and should have based on a number of objectives. That is why the support that is given should be phased, because it should not create a situation of problematic. So they should be given, certain sectors should be given the opportunity to adapt. So this is the support, the subsidies are carried out by institutions, by the government. So the IMF has given $17 billion to countries of the region. So which means that we were able to reach the level of funding to 65%, which is a record kind of figure when it comes to funding in the region. And also we have activated communication when it comes to policies. And this was very important indeed, not only to countries that require funding, but also the ones that devise policies. So the GCC does not need funding, but they had challenges in this current phase, and they had to have new policies, and we're going to continue with these efforts. And there are new capabilities that have been set also through the SDRs, where countries of the region can benefit, and some countries are still continue with their reforms, such as Tunisia, Iraq, Jordan. These countries that have asked for the support of the IMF through the SDRs, and we are studying these applications in order to adapt our efforts to the needs of those countries. And the question that remains, we have to jointly work and jointly think about the solutions. And these are very important matters. That is why we concentrate on very important matters. So we do work with other institutions. We work with the CSOs and also think tanks that create the prospects of the coming phase. So the protection of the most the groups that are in most fragile, and also to build productive economies, and also to find solutions to matters such as the debts, because debts constitute a point of weakness. And also we have to reinforce governance, and also to alleviate differences even in financial policies, whether these are tax policies or expenditure policies. All these matters need to be pondered on, need to be thought of through strategies for the current and coming phase. Thank you very much, Mr. Jihad. Perhaps you even responded to some of the questions that I was going to pose to you. So there is a very, very sensitive matter that you have referred to in your intervention. You talked about the vital groups or components of the community that have been impacted, fragile groups that have been impacted more than other countries. There are concerns that there might be some manifestations of protests, political protests, or societal protests after the SDRs are withdrawn, or if the recovery takes a longer period of time. You have referred to this matter in your October report, and also you have mentioned that in your April report. And it seems that this is a concern that exists. So is the IMF giving technical support or advice to countries for them to be able to rebuild their social systems, and also helping marginalized groups? Traditionally speaking, these matters used to be left to the World Bank and other institutions, but it seems that you're aware now and do understand the importance of this matter and want to play a role in this matter. So can you clarify the role of the IMF, particularly when it comes to countries that are going through very, very sensitive periods of time, going through very difficult economic situations, and perhaps manifestations of protest might appear very strongly in the coming days?
اولا لابد ان نبين لماذا. We must first of all say what's the importance of this issue and what's our role. The importance of this issue is that when looking to the implications, we found they require a lot of attention. The very high increase last year in the levels of unemployment on the background of on an already high level of unemployment, especially with the young people. The second indication is that we see that during the pandemic, there were there was a difference, disparities between the different segments of society, but how to adapt and to work from home, especially the younger generation, the women, and the education from home, especially for the low-level families, low-level income families, and that might lead to a very big gap of recovery or coming out of the crisis. And also when we see that the tools of social policies have not been effective to, to provide quick support to the segments of society that were needed. And this also shows that the sectors that can observe a lot of capacity, such as the tourism and services, were the most affected. This is something worrying. Worrying not only for our region, no, we must shed light on that. That's not something that is only for the Middle East region. No, it is something that we can see in many countries in the world, but also we see it in the countries of our region. So we need to haste to accelerate our efforts before it becomes a real problem. The second thing, what must be done? First of all, we must reuse again, use this period as an opportunity to rebuild the pillars, the effective basic pillars for the organization of the economy and the society. The social policies in the past period and for many decades, in fact, I can say at least the 10 past years, had some experiences, many experiences, in fact, but there were a lot of weak points. The first weak point was the mechanism. For example, the targeting. There was a big weakness in the statistics and information to decide who are the most needy people. And also the modes of support. Usually, for a long time, the support was given by merchandise, not by groups of people. The supporting the goods are not very good for those who need help, and consequently the public money, public fund, which is that of the society, is used for purposes that not really useful. And that's why we need to reconsider these mechanisms and also and how we look into the labor market. We saw this even the Gulf states countries such as Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the Emirates, they have changed their labor laws, and this was something positive and had a good effects. And this led to some, that also improved the money transfers made by the labor or the workers in the Gulf states. So there was a review of the labor market and also on how to give opportunities. I give an example, a short one, and we can discuss this in deepness. The money financial integration. That's with a person's capability of using, being able to improve the situation, which needs a good, strong banking system for people who don't have the capabilities compared to some other countries, similar ones, and where this number is about 16%, 17% more. So we need to revive, consider the mechanisms that are used so far. We need to accelerate them, improving them, and we need to have a better basis for the economic system, the social, economic, and the contractual system to decrease the gaps in income. There's another important factor. Some countries are suffering from the repercussions of conflicts such as Syria, Yemen, Libya, and countries that were affected by that, such as Jordan, Lebanon, etc. So we're trying to help these countries by different mechanisms, different from that which we do with other countries. What the fund does is it has several roles, in fact. One is the basic interest, the economic stability is an important factor. Without that, this is a lesson that this the fund has learned in the past period and past decade after the international transformation in 2011. We must take into consideration the economic situation, the political and social situations of each country. We must have targets and goals that are more than just development and stability. For example, in the programs that we adopted with countries like Jordan and Egypt, we have modified the, the, giving the goals, giving the social and women targets, to give them the priority in our support. And this is an important factor. As the fund, the only institution, no. We will cooperate with many other such as the World Bank, the UN institutions, and also regional institutions. There are some regional institutions that are very good, such as the Arab Development Fund and others, and the funds of each country. Each country has its own development programs, such as Qatar, the Emirates, Saudi Arabia, all of which play a very good active role, and we cooperate with these institutions and with the civil society and intellectual society also, who play a very important role. And we are we are just a member in these teams, as we are in Qatar, we're talking back of the football team, as we are talking, we are in Qatar. So we want to contribute as an important factor in this team, or a contributor in this big workshop of changes. Mr. Jihad, yes, I think that you might even play a bigger role in the near future. One of the fears we see in the report uh, are about the financial or the financial needs that are usually based on domestic resources, international resources, and given the fact that the interest rates have increased on the world, and some these countries might ask for help, for support from the IMF. I think you will have a very important role, pivotal role, more than just being just a team. You raised a question, or you raised to draw my attention is you spoke about that we did discover this year something. So I'd like to ask you our discoveries during the pandemic. What lessons have we must take with us for the future to be one of the bases of our thinking and movement? I think we have discovered the role and role of the governments, the state, and the effectiveness of government institutions, which usually did not receive enough or required attention in the past, whether for investment purposes, outside the security and military context. We discovered the importance of the government institutions last year because they played a very important role, at least in the beginning. So do you think that enhancing and enforcing the public sector, or reviewing the role of the public sector and enforcing it, whether technically, humanitarianly, or development-wise, is part of the plan of work or action in the coming years and for all the countries of the region? No doubt. Last year was a year of discovering the importance of the public sector. I want to clarify something. We discovered there's a difference between effectiveness and the size of work. The effectiveness of the state and government and institutions in adapting and facing the challenges is not related to size. We found some countries, such as the Gulf states and other countries, were very effective, very active. They made a lot of investments in sectors and developed services. So here, there's a big difference between the effectiveness and the size. And I find there's a big difference between elements of trust and if I can say that, the way we look into the state institutions. There was an important factor that we saw, which was the importance of clarification and notification, and this has led to building trust and that country can confront the challenges and can help. That's why, what were the main lessons that we have learned? Oh, first of all, that the role of the state or the government is related to its capability of planning, its effectiveness of performance, and also its capability of the bringing in the society, the citizens. The planning capabilities was clear, and here we saw, and you asked about the vaccinations. It was clear soon that the country, the government had uh, uh, moved quickly to plan for the future, just like a chess player planning for several steps at the same time. And there were some countries that developed in a very fast way the technical services to deal to work from home, to from distance, by providing services to protect the rights of peoples and also to benefit from public services such as health and learning from home. Use that in a very good way, and that's why many countries in the Gulf region did not need uh, to, to increase their expenditure because they were already prepared. Preparedness was an important part of the work of government. Some countries uh, discover they have a lot of weak points, such as in their public institutions, which were not as effective as necessary to to play their role at this time, at this stage, and also in the coming stages to increase improvement. We are at a period that with a lot of investment and not only financial investment, but only investment in other sectors because we need a lot of time to transform. The translation is very important. The state or the government is something pivotal, important, but the new state, the state that counts on the capabilities of analysis and planning, and here we found that the studies were very important. The countries did not have surveys for the families, could not provide services, social services in a way or any support for the families. The role of the family, the state, will be basic and important in defining how the state interacts with the other factors, the other parties. This was important. In the past period, we found that the state alone by itself was not capable of facing this crisis. The capability of partnership with the other segments of the society, who, as the private sector, the societal sector, who played a very important role. That's why it's important for the state to look at itself as a partner, as a basic partner that has a vision and that provides security and safety and provides good basic Bible building infrastructure and sees itself as a partner, so it's a partner that enhances the other partners, a partner on the outside with the regional interaction with other countries, and this is something very important. The, the role of the state is very important in this. I give you two examples. Using the digital currency today. This is something that can't be done by each country and every country. No, this requires a lot of regional cooperation and making a lot of investments in topics that relate to the life of people, the food security, water security, all this requires regional cooperation. We see that so solving this with the Gulf states in a very fast way came back to the discussions about regional cooperation, which solved many problems that were there in the past because everybody was aware it is important to have cooperation. The coming phase requires a lot of cooperation. So what we need now, and those the intellectuals who think into things that are related to the role of the public sector and the state will need to give us a new vision, a new plan about how the state, the role of the state should be in the coming period. Mr. Jihad, thank you very much. I have received a lot of questions and I've tried to collect them under different titles. I'm sorry, I apologize for being able to send this question that I will not uh, raise the question on the same wording they send it because we are short of time to summarize the questions. There's a number of questions that are related to the effects of climate change and or the present transformation by counting on renewable energy. What are the effects of this new development on the future of the economy of the region and how we should think about this right from now? This is a big and important question and a new one, in fact. The big question because the conflict region are very much affected by climate changes, and the conflict region are usually receiving countries because their transmission volumes are not less than those other countries, India, China, and other uh, countries. But nevertheless, they are affected. Right now, many countries have been affected by climate changes on important sectors such as agriculture. In 2020, there was a lot of effect on by the on the economy of Morocco because of the climate changes and other Sudan also. So the effects of climate change is very big, and it's something not something new. Providing food security for the region is also something very vital and something new because of the dangers or risks of desertification that is hurting many countries in the region, and also that affecting the social transformations and the migration from one country to another. And also it affects, given the importance of the energy and petrol securities and sectors are very important, they affect these two sectors also. So this, but what we see in return also that this thing has become in the very heart of the thinking of decision makers and have thinking of this and giving studying this issue with a lot of seriousness. What we need in the coming period is first to understand these challenges. Second, to create a site or place for the region on the international table which discuss these issues. Third, to put this track by gradual, as a gradual way by stages in the coming years or during the coming decade in order to know how to adapt to the new changes and to make these changes or transformations of our economies in a way that they would be in line with that could bring in the coming investments in the sectors that are friendly to the environment and also to compensate those who will be affected by this transformation, big transformation process that has already begun at the national level. Therefore, there's a role for all the banking sector, the university sector, and this is one of the important lessons that we have learned through it last year is that the intellectual cooperation, technological cooperation, scientific cooperation are one of the points or one of the prospects of the future for the region. There's a lot of investment that was made in the education, as we saw in Qatar and many other countries in the region. We saw that in Egypt and Lebanon and the North Africa countries. This is something was benefit from this energy cooperation in a way that will be able to play a good role in the economic transformation process in the region. Thank you very much, Mr. Jihad. I don't want to be too many questions to you, but I still receive many questions. And I'm sorry, some of the questions, you can answer them in seconds, only seconds. There's more than one question about Lebanon. Is there a clear plan for Lebanon to take it out of this severe economic crisis it's suffering from? Is there any uh, national agreement to support this country? And will their fund play a role in that? Is there a clear vision about this? In fact, Lebanon is suffering from a big number of crises at the same time that's put in the most difficult period in on modern history on the financial, economic level, and social level. And today they are suffering from many problems, big problems, because inflation has increased 125%, and the GNP has decreased by 25%, and the World Bank numbers is the poverty is now more than 50%. So Lebanon needs two things. One, that they need a clear program, transparent one that is convincing and serious to get out of the crisis and to have external support. Yes, there is international intention to help Lebanon, given the big size of their problems, and also because of the big sacrifices made by Lebanon more than one level, at least of which the hosting such a big number of displaced people who humanitarily need this, but of course affected the economy of Lebanon. So there's a clear intention and a lot of interaction with its Lebanese authorities to know what they need, and the short level they need to have a government that reactivates the communication with international community and have a program, a complete program that will be comprehensive and not partial, and that takes into consideration the ideas and suggestions of all the civil society and gets it, the acceptance of the parliament. And thank you very much for this brief and very useful answer, Mr. Jihad. On behalf of everybody, my colleagues here in Doha and the participants who are following us through the different social media platforms, I would like to extend my thanks to you for giving us your time and for your frankness and for openness and readiness uh, to respond to all our questions to deal with us. We look forward to host you once again. But the last question I received from the participant was, what will you publish the next version of the prospects of the economy of the Middle East, and will you be ready to introduce it to them and to discuss it with us? I think I can answer part of this question by saying the invitation is open and renewable to Mr. Jihad and all our colleagues and the Department of Middle East to cooperate with them on this respect or other respects. I give you the last word, Mr. Jihad, and I think that we were able to cover many topics at this session. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tarik. First of all, I thank you for hosting me, and it's an honor for me to cooperate with such intellectual institution that looks into the region and of the future. I thank you for the invitation, and there will be happy to accept this invitation and other invitations. As for our expectations, we expect that on October, the the September or the October this year. But from now to then, there will be a number of studies and papers that will be a sort of support for what we expect about the situation of the public sector. That's very important as for the state, and about the issues of climate changes and their effects and their effects, and about topics that are important, such as containment, social and economic containment, and how to give a bigger role to the young people and the women and the coming period, and also to re-enhance economic stability by fixing the problems such as public debts and other issues. We are quite ready to accept all your feedback for anything we do, and it's important for us. And also, if you have any ideas or any suggestions, we are quite ready to accept them. We are quite ready also to organize some joint action between us and other institutions that are in the region. Thank you, Mr. Jihad. We wish you have a good day. We sure that all our participants will have a very Ramadan. We wish you a good Eid and Eid Mubarak in advance. Thank you very much, Mr. Jihad. I thank you and thank all the colleagues in the IMF for being with us today. Thank you very much. Have a good day. Thank you very much. I wish everybody Eid Saeed and Ramadan